So growing up, I was exposed to a lot of math and science because my dad worked for NASA and was an electrical engineer, and he was always teaching me math. And even though I found math really interesting, in school I never had really good teachers, and I wasn't being taught very well, so I had a hard time understanding exactly what I was learning, even though I knew I should be able to understand it. And because of that, I did what most people do and tried to steer clear of math. But in college, I actually took a pre-cal class, and I finally had a teacher who was excited about math and explained it in a way I understood. And that class was when it all just suddenly clicked. And because of her, that's why I decided I wanted to teach. And I want people to have that same click because I think anyone can understand math if they're taught it in the right way. So the more I've been studying and delving deeper into math, the more I've found that everything can actually be boiled down into some simple math equation. You can actually describe anything with just a few numbers and letters, and it's almost comforting to know that the world really isn't as complicated as it seems sometimes in that way. I think most people think math doesn't apply to their life either because they don't want to look for it or because they honestly don't know how much it actually influences their daily life. But I think because I'm a math major, I'm able to recognize that because I'm exposed to math so much. I mean, if you want a real world example, like I play guitar and piano, and in math, we look for patterns to explain and predict things we don't know, and music does that in a really similar way. I mean, you see it a lot in music where you have repeating choruses or bars, which are basically notes arranged in different patterns. And when a musician looks at a piece of music, they're really trying to see how the notes relate to one another. And those types of relationships are really fundamental to math. I'm pretty sure everyone who knows me knows that I love to crochet and knit. And I think I love it so much because it incorporates math in this really unique way. Like crocheting and knitting patterns have this underlying mathematical structure that you wouldn't really expect. But when you follow a crochet or knitting pattern, you can be really strategic about where you add a stitch or drop a stitch, or you can manipulate the pattern in a way that works for whatever piece you're doing. And that really is the heart of math, like manipulating a pattern or recognizing patterns. With crochet, you can actually show 3D versions of shapes in hyperbolic space, which is something that's hard for people to understand in a 2D representation sometimes. So my favorite quote about math is, "Mathematics reveals its secrets only to those who approach it for pure love for its own beauty." And that's really how I fell in love with math. When you start to see it show itself to you, you can't help but want to start digging deeper and deeper, and you really learn to appreciate it with this pure, unadulterated love. And I feel like if you open up your mind, you'll really see that it's the language that describes the world in this really awesome way. I think a lot of people think that math is really strict, but the reality is that it's really abstract and it's applicable in so many ways. You have these restrictions, but you also have endless possibilities to be creative within those restrictions. And I think when it comes down to it, everyone should be more open to learning and appreciating math. It's not this scary, impossible to understand, useless thing that a lot of people make it out to be. It's something that's beautiful and it describes our world. It's really similar to art, science, music, and I think it's a form of art in its own way. And I think it's time people really start appreciating it for that. My name is Sarah Matlock, and I love math.